Uganda is progressing very fast, negotiating sharp bends at breakneck speed. On the Drift podcast, we put that growth in perspective.
Yes, you are live on the You Are a Drift podcast, and it's been a minute. Nonetheless, we are back. My name is Solomon Chimbogwe, and I'm very glad to be having this conversation with you tonight. And of course, on set, I'm joined by one of our most brilliant domestic tax administrators, and it's none other than Jolly. I won't say much about her because she's here. She can say it all.
Okay, thank you, Solomon, and thank you to our viewers out there who are watching the URL. And today, my name is Jolly Mutesi Uhiriwe. I am an officer in the Domestic Tax Department of URA, and I'm a lawyer by profession, and I'm glad to be here to talk about our topic tonight.
What do you do here at URA?
So at URA, I collect taxes like everyone that works in URA in one way or another, but I work in the International Tax and Transfer Pricing Unit where I work as a supervisor, and I basically collect tax from multinationals operating in Uganda.
Tax from multinationals?
Yes.
Now, I might not be a multinational.
You're not?
I've tried to be around.
Okay.
I've been to Kenya. I've been to Tanzania. I knew you were going to go there.
That I make you a multinational.
But I've also been to Dubai.
Multinationals are entities that operate in more than one country. Business entities that operate in more than one country.
I'm not a multinational.
Yes.
But I'm multinational.
Okay. We can't say that, but multinational would then mean you have more than one citizenship.
or more than one meal.
Maybe if Solomon.
Which is impossible.
Okay.
Nonetheless, I've been to Dubai. And must have been about 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
Time flies. And I was in this place. They were just introducing the animal that we are going to be talking about tonight.
Yes.
That's value-added tax.
Value-added tax.
It's one of those
yes.
countries that have actually just adopted it quite recently.
Yes.
Which is a bit of a far cry from Uganda, which introduced it like way back.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember.
1998.
They're about 98, 97. Where you were around?
I was in early primary school. Yes, I was.
I think I was also around.
Yes.
But then these guys were doing it in back end of the 2020s.
Yes.
And it was interesting because then so much of a big deal.
Yes.
And I think they had got some vendors to help the revenue entity with administering that particular tax.
Collecting the particular tax. Yes.
Collecting it. And you would buy something.
Yes.
And at the point of purchasing something,
yes,
you're given your VAT refund collection. It was a piece of paper that you would use to go and claim on your way out from the country.
What happens in that instance, Solomon, is that VAT is supposed to be charged on consumers.
Yes.
People that are consuming that good or service in that particular country. So if you're not consuming a good in their country, then you're not supposed to pay VAT in that country. But because it's very hard for them to know whom did the vendor sell to, was this person consuming that good in our country or not, it is then easier for the vendor to charge you the VAT at the point when you're buying that particular good, and then the government will refund that VAT when you're exiting the country because they have actually confirmed that you're not consuming this good in their country. You're living with it. So for as long as you're not consuming the good in that particular country, then you're not supposed to pay VAT. But for better administration, you pay it, then they refund it on your way out. Because I mean, what if you don't pay it and then you actually consume the good in their country? They would have lost, and you're too many people in the country. They can't follow up each one of you. Exactly. So it's better to charge it, and as you're going out, you show them this is the good that I bought. This is the invoice on which I bought it. I paid VAT. I'm taking this good out of the country. They refund your VAT. This happens in Uganda as well, and in so many countries that apply VAT around the world.
Awesome. We are going to get to that because I would like to check out the mechanics of it, like how it happens.
Yes, we are talking about that.
Before we go too deep into it, what is it? Someone is probably interacting with this tax head for the very first time, and they would just like to know what VAT is.
So VAT is a type of tax. Okay? We have about 3 tax types that we charge in Uganda, and VAT is one of them. So it's a type of tax that is charged in Uganda. How do we charge, or who do we charge VAT? VAT is aimed at targeting value addition. So that is where it derives its name from, value added tax. It targets value addition, so that it is a tax charged at every point at which value is added, either to a good or to a service. This tax is not new, and so many countries around the world charge it. Some will call it a sales tax, they will not call it VAT, but it means the same thing, yes. So VAT, sales tax, it basically means the same thing. And this tax is paid by the final consumer of the good or the service. So the final person that actually consumes that bottle of soda, the final person that actually puts the teaspoon of sugar into their tea is the one that is going to pay the VAT at the point when they're purchasing it.
Thank you for breaking it down. I would just like to probe you because you said where value is added.
Yes.
Are you able to give us an instance? Like,
Okay.
Ugandans are very they prefer pictures. They
Yes.
prefer seeing things in color. If you can paint us a picture.
So value addition under VAT then looks at value added along a particular chain, either in an industry or in a particular service. I'll give an example of an industry and show you how value added tax works.
Sure.
Let me use an example of Harris International. Okay, I think most Ugandans will recognize Harris because it has famous brands around the country. You eat the biscuits, you drink the soda, the rock boom, yes, the water, crystal water,
and the soda.
Yes, so it is one of those companies that at least is a household name in the country. So Harris International manufactures biscuits, okay, confectionaries. Harris International is manufacturing a VATable good, because biscuits are supposed to be charged VAT.
True.
Now, before Harris International manufactures this biscuit, they use raw materials. Some of these raw materials are imported from outside the country. Some of them they buy inside the country. But remember, they want to make a biscuit. So they're going to buy wheat, they're going to buy sugar, they're going to buy milk, they'll probably need to buy some other additives from outside the country. When they buy those things from outside the country, they're going to be charged VAT at the point when they're importing them into the country. So at customs, they're going to be charged VAT. So they record and say that they have been charged VAT at that particular point. When they come into the country, they're able to make the biscuit by using all these raw materials. So they might be buying milk from Jessa and they will charge them VAT. So they'll record that they've been charged VAT. They put all these ingredients together and finally produce the biscuits. When they produce the biscuits and they're selling them, they will charge VAT on those particular biscuits. But remember, Harris International is not going to sell the biscuits to you and me, okay? You're not going to walk into the factory in Kawempe and say, I want a biscuit, and they give it to you. Yes, because you're buying small quantities, so they cannot sell to you. They need to sell to distributors who are going to buy in bulk. Okay, so when the distributor comes to buy these biscuits, let's say the distributor is buying 1,000 tins of biscuits, Harris International is going to charge VAT on that particular transaction. So they'll calculate the cost of 1,000 tins of biscuits, add VAT to that particular cost, and that distributor will have to pay the VAT. So what happens when Harris International receives the VAT from that distributor? It's going to tell the government, I have your VAT.
I have some money here.
I have collected it on your behalf because I am your agent for purposes of collecting VAT. But I already paid some VAT when I was importing things into the country for using in making this biscuit. When I was buying some things locally to use in making this biscuit, I paid VAT. So I will get the one that I collected from the distributor who was buying the tins of biscuits, subtract what I paid for the ingredients that I used to make this biscuit, and pay the balance to URA. So the value that has been added is the turning all this wheat, milk, flour, sugar into a biscuit. That is the value. So the distributor has paid for that value, and Harris International is giving government the difference between what the distributor has paid them and what they actually incurred to make this particular biscuit. So Harris International has not paid any VAT. It is the distributor at that point who has paid the VAT. Correct. If anything, Harris International has recovered what it paid. So it's a zero-sum game for them. Now, the distributor is going to take that biscuit and sell it, because I'm not going to buy 1,000 tins of biscuits to eat them. So I'm going to sell them to, let's say, a supermarket or your grocery store along near your home. Okay, so
basically, this person is a distributor.
Yes.
A wholesaler.
Yes.
By own intent.
Yes.
He's going to find some retailers.
Yes.
That he's going to give.
Yes.
These biscuits.
Yes. So it is going to get the cost of the biscuits, add a markup, because of course they're in the business to make a profit, add VAT, and sell those biscuits to the supermarket. So the distributor is also going to collect VAT. They paid VAT to Harris, but they're going to collect VAT from the retailer, who is the supermarket or the grocery store. So when they take these biscuits to the supermarket, they tell them, I have maybe 200 tins of biscuits. Let's imagine the supermarket is not going to buy all the 1,000. I have 200 tins of biscuits. I'm selling them to you. This is the cost plus VAT. So the supermarket will pay the VAT for those biscuits. Okay, maybe I'm selling to 5 supermarkets, each supermarket 200 tins. Each supermarket is going to pay VAT for the number of biscuit tins that they have purchased. Okay. When the distributor collects that VAT that has been paid by the supermarket, he's going to come to URA as well and say, URA, I paid VAT to Harris International when I was buying these biscuits. I have also charged VAT to the supermarket. I get the VAT I've charged the supermarket, deduct the VAT I paid to Harris International, pay to URA the balance. So again, the distributor has not incurred any VAT. Okay, it is at that point the supermarket that has incurred the VAT. So Harris International, no VAT. Distributor, no VAT. We are now at the supermarket.
For clarity.
Yes.
The responsibility.
Yes.
Of meeting the VAT.
Yes.
As a tax.
Yes.
Has been passed on.
Yes.
By Harris International.
To the distributor. Okay.
And now the distributor
is passing it on to the supermarket. Okay.
I'm with you.
Now we are in the supermarket. Solomon needs to buy some biscuits for his children at home. Okay. He needs to buy the biscuits for them to eat. He's not going to sell them to his children. So Solomon walks into the supermarket and buys a tin of biscuits or 2 tins. Maybe the children are going back to school after holidays, so they need at least more than 1 tin.
I'm with you.
When Solomon goes to the supermarket to buy the tin of biscuits, he's going to pay VAT. The supermarket will charge VAT. So the supermarket will get the cost.
I see it on my receipt.
Yes, the supermarket will get the cost of each tin of biscuit that it paid the distributor, add their profit, add VAT, and charge it to you, the final person who has come to buy the tin of biscuits from the supermarket aisle. What value are they adding? They have displayed the tin of biscuits in a way that makes it easy for you to locate it. Okay? Because remember, the distributor charged VAT because they moved the biscuits from the factory nearer to you. The supermarket did not have to pick them from the factory. They got it from the distributor. So that is the value the distributor added. And indeed, the supermarket paid for that value. Now the supermarket has displayed the biscuits in a place that is convenient for you, nearer to you.
In my chalo.
You're able to actually go and buy the biscuit. You don't have to go to the factory. So they have added value to the biscuits. So they will also charge you VAT when you purchase that biscuit. Okay, so what will happen is at the end of the month, the supermarket will say, I sold the 200 tins of biscuits to these different customers. I charge them VAT and I need to give it to URA because I was collecting it for URA. But URA, I paid the distributor VAT when I was buying these biscuits from the distributor. So let me first remove what I paid the distributor and pay to you the balance. So the final person that has paid VAT is actually Solomon, who bought the biscuits for his children to eat. So that is what we mean when we say it is paid by the final consumer. Because all these other people along the value chain have been able to recover the VAT that they paid. But you, the final consumer, cannot recover it. So you are the final person that pays the VAT. That is why most people call it the consumption tax. It is paid by the person consuming the good.
It has never been explained in a way that is clearer than that, because two things are apparent here.
Yes.
URA is the chief collector of VAT.
Yes.
Harris International becomes a collector on behalf
an
of
agent.
URA.
Yes, a collecting agent. The distributor,
also becomes a collecting agent
on behalf of URA.
on behalf of URA
Yes.
by way of Harris.
Yes.
The supermarket
Yes.
also becomes a collecting agent
Yes.
on behalf of URA
Yes.
by way of the distributor and Harris.
So
And then me,
the final consumer.
the eater of the biscuit,
Yes.
I'm the one who is
Actually paying the VAT. So these other parties are simply to aid in collection. Because imagine, Solomon, if you were the one to pay the VAT, so you'd go and say, oh, URA, I'm buying 2 tins of biscuits. What is the VAT? First pay the VAT to URA, then go to the supermarket and pick it wouldn't be administratively efficient or even possible.
It would be crazy.
Okay, so much as the VAT is paid by the final consumers cannot each go and pay VAT on each single little product that they buy. So it makes it easier administratively for these bigger entities to collect it on behalf of URA and give it to URA. So that is why you see they're given that benefit that before you collect and give me, remove what you actually
Okay, so-
incurred. Yes, to make it fair for them.
You've given me a million questions.
Yes,
and I'm
Solomon.
sure our viewers also have bits of these questions.
Yes.
First and foremost, is this not double taxation?
Okay.
I know there are people who might want to perceive of it as such because along the value chain, like it's like everyone is paying something.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
to address that issue,
Okay.
isn't there a bit of double taxation here?
No, there wouldn't be any double taxation because remember, at all material points in time, the person that is actually paying the VAT is getting it back apart from you, the final consumer.
For you, you're just eating.
You are paying the tax because you are the person that's supposed to pay the tax because you have benefited the most or you have gained value. Okay, you have got the biscuit that you needed. The biscuit is not a good that you need. Okay, it is not a basic need. It is more of something that you eat because you want to. And of course, you've got it nearer to yourself. You don't have to go and look for it from a factory. You bought it from a shop near you. So you have got the value out of that particular good. And that is why you, the final consumer, is the one paying the VAT. All these other people along the value chain, the reason why each of them has to collect pay is to make it administratively efficient for URA to follow the VAT value chain so that they are able to see at what point did we lose the VAT. Okay, if we were saying the final consumer pays alone without everyone else along the chain making the requisite payments, how would we be able to follow this VAT? So the only reason why we make Harris International pay, remove what they paid, pay the balance to URA, make the distributor pay, remove what they incurred, pay the balance to URA, is for us to be able to follow the flow of goods and services.
To follow the money.
Yes.
It's about keeping the people along the value chain honest and accountable.
Yes, to make sure that we can actually account for the
You've
VAT.
explained it very well from the context of a local producer who has produced this product.
Yes.
Of course, with inputs from either abroad or locally sourced, and value has been added, then the game begins.
Yes.
What about a situation where someone is actually importing a product that is importing a car, for example, made in Germany?
Germany,
Lawyers,
not Japan.
I tend to like Germany cars.
Okay.
So, this guy is coming in. What's at play? Because it hasn't been produced here.
Yes.
Someone might struggle to appreciate the value that's
Yes.
added to the car. What's the picture like?
Okay, so value addition doesn't necessarily mean that the good has to be produced in the country.
Sure.
Value addition comes from the aspect of the value you, the consumer, derives from having this
consuming.
particular good. Okay, you could walk. Okay, you could walk, but you've decided to use a car. Why? Because if it is efficient for you, you need it to be able to move from one place to another. You take a shorter time to get to where you want to be. So you pay for that value that you derive from that particular good.
And beyond that, I've chosen a box.
Whatever you've chosen, whether it's a Paso or a box, whatever you've chosen, because it's adding value to you, you're paying for that additional value that you're gaining from having this good or product.
Correct.
So that's the same thing that applies to services like legal services. You're going to a lawyer because you're gaining value from their legal services. So because of the value that you attach to getting that legal service, you're supposed to pay VAT on that particular service. So the lawyer charges you VAT and pays the balance to URA. Same thing with accounting firms, something with a whole number of goods and services. That is why you see the ones that are essential, they're not charged VAT.
Example?
For example, education services. Education services are essential. They add value to you, okay? I remember when we were younger, we used to have this song that we used to sing in school. I think they still sing it, eh? Twaja tuli mbuzi kati tu, eh? You can finish that one.
Something like that.
Yes, so you bring in your little child who is probably 4 or 5 years old, and this school adds value to them because they groom them into becoming this professional person. So you bring your little Solomon, Twaja tuli shi.
So you bring your goat.
No. That is you, Solomon. Yes, so they're able to add value to this person and give you a whole URL officer, okay? You brought a little Solomon, but through the education system, you have a whole URL officer that is able to serve this great country. They've added value. But you're not going to find VAT added onto a school fees invoice.
True.
Okay, when the school is giving you an invoice for your school fees for the next time, you're not going to find VAT added to it. Why? Because it is an essential good. It's rather commodity or service. Okay, it is essential for people to be educated.
And we
so
should come back to it.
yes,
Because
so no VAT is charged, and that is exempt. Even medical services and a whole host of things that are considered essential. Okay, they are exempt and you do not pay VAT for them. Why? Because government wants to make them cheaper. They want to make it cheaper for you
For
to access
everybody
these
to-
particular goods or service. So they become exempt.
nice. So far so good. And still have a few more questions. Really.
Yes.
Just a few more, because in responding to these, you literally preempted a good bunch of questions, because I really wanted to ask who actually gets to pay the VAT, but you made it very clear.
It's the final consumer.
Before we go so far away from this situation that we just elaborately appreciated,
Yes.
you indicated that it is the balance that whoever is responsible for collecting VAT on behalf of URA
Yes.
actually gets to remit to URA.
Yes.
Are there scenarios where instead of a balance, someone is actually literally left with nothing? For instance, you've sold a lot less than what you actually put in terms of stocking.
Yes.
What happens to
That
a
scenario.
person who is in a picture like that?
Okay. Yes, there are scenarios where a business person has incurred much more VAT than they are able to actually collect from providing that particular good or service. One of the scenarios where that may happen is, for example, if you're dealing in what we call a zero-rated good,
Okay.
like medicine and most pharmaceutical products, they are zero-rated. What does zero-rated mean? It means that they charge you VAT, but at a rate of 0. So 0% means actually you're not going to pay anything. But this person who is selling this zero-rated good is actually incurring VAT on other things. Maybe they're paying rent, and commercial rent attracts VAT.
Packaging.
Yes, they are paying for packaging. They're paying for a lot of things that actually have VAT attached to them. So they're not collecting any VAT because the good that they're supplying is zero-rated, but they're incurring VAT for the things that they're paying for to be able to do this business. So in that case, they will always be in a balanced position where they've paid more VAT than they can actually collect, because they can't collect any. And in that particular case, URA will refund the VAT that that person was incurred in their business. So they will make sure they refund the VAT that that person incurred. Another scenario, of course, will be a scenario where you have someone that actually has incurred a lot of VAT in a particular month, but they've not been able to sell that much in that particular month. Maybe they'll sell more in the next month. But remember, VAT is accounted for on a monthly basis. So in that particular month, you've incurred a lot of VAT. E.g. construction companies, they will incur a lot of VAT when they're providing the service, they're constructing the roads, but UNRA will take maybe another 6 months to pay them. So for those few months before they receive a payment, they're always going to be in a balanced position where they've actually incurred more VAT than they've received nothing, or they've received less. So again, in that particular position, if you can actually verify this, you are able to refund the money back to the business person, because like I said, VAT is paid by the final consumer of the good or service, not the business person.
Thank you. I think it can't get clearer than that. But someone would wonder,
Yes.
is this legal? Is there a legal provision for URA to administer this particular tax?
Okay. Yes, there's a legal basis. All tax laws have a legal basis, and the legal basis are the laws themselves, the acts of parliament, what we call the acts of parliament. So, for example, we collect the VAT because it's provided for in the VAT Act. These acts are passed by parliament, which determines what taxes the government can charge the citizens or residents of Uganda. URA collects these taxes, so the legal basis is the law, which is the VAT Act or the Value Added Tax Act.
Thank you so much for making that as clear as night and day, because it's a common question, and I think we shall come to it probably towards the end.
Okay.
For we interface with it a lot when we are out in the field engaging people.
Yes.
And someone is telling you that, look, I pay tax when I'm buying sugar.
Yes.
I pay tax when I'm buying bread. Why then do you expect me to again pay tax? They kind of feel like because they've met the VAT when they are consuming, they've already paid tax.
Okay. So there is a difference between VAT and income tax, and people tend to miss that difference, if I can call it that.
Yes.
So, like I've said, we don't administer just one tax type in Uganda. We administer a number of tax types. So we administer VAT, we administer income tax, we administer excise duty. Okay, so those are the different taxes that we administer in Uganda. I know some people will say, oh, but we pay also at customs. Those are duties. We don't look at those as taxes. Okay, just like you pay when you're getting a driving permit or a passport, but you're not going to say I paid taxes for getting a passport. Yes, it is a way for government to get revenue, but it's not a tax for all intents and purposes. So the major taxes that we collect as URA is value-added tax, income tax, and excise duty. Someone will also say gamings and sports betting that we collect. I know people will say, oh, WHT, oh, payee, all that is income tax. So if you understand the structure of tax, you'll understand that income tax may be called many names, but it's actually income tax. So those are taxes that we collect. So is a person paying VAT and income tax paying too many taxes? I would say no, because the incidence of tax for these particular tax types is different. Okay? Value-added tax.
Say it in color.
Oh yes, value-added tax is paid on value. Okay? For as long as you derive value from consuming something, then you pay tax for deriving that value. If I decide never to take sugar, where will that VAT find me? If I decide never
VAT
to
sugar.
Yes, the VAT on sugar, where will I ever pay it? If I decide never to buy anything that is subject to VAT, of course that would be impossible. But if I decide to live that life, where would the VAT ever find me? Imagine you are someone in the village out there. You don't consume sugar. You don't buy things like clothes in high-end shops. Okay, you don't drive a car. Okay, so you're not incurring VAT because you're not consuming these particular goods, because you don't attach that much value to them. Okay, if you go to the garden, you grow your crops, you cook them, you cook your food at home, you consume it at home, you're not going to interface with VAT. But you might interface with income tax, okay? Especially if you're doing business and earning income in Uganda. So while VAT is charged on people that derive value from goods or services that are subject to VAT, income tax is simply charged on anyone that earns income in this country, either because they're doing a business or because they are actually earning income as an employee in this country, or because they're sourcing income from a particular thing in this country. They have to pay income tax. So that is the difference. If you're paying VAT, you're not paying too many taxes. You're simply paying for the value that you attach to a particular good or service. You're paying income tax, you're giving what's due because you've earned from a business or you've earned from employment, because you are in Uganda and you're supposed to pay tax on that earning.
Johnny, is everyone in business supposed to be registered for VAT?
No. No. So who is required to register for VAT? Okay. So first of all, you must be supplying a VATable good or service. Okay, because VAT is charged on goods and services.
Okay.
So you must be supplying a VATable service or supplying a VATable good. Because like I mentioned, there's some goods or services that are exempt from
Zero
VAT.
rated.
Zero rated is still VAT.
Yes.
So those that are exempt, completely exempt. So if you're dealing in something that is completely exempt, you're not required to register
Let me just
for
take
VAT. Insurance services, and like I said, education services, they're exempt. Okay, so you're not required to register for VAT. But for as long as you're dealing in a VATable good or service, you are required to register for VAT. But that's not the only requirement.
Okay.
The second requirement is that you actually have a turnover of 150 million or more. Okay, so there is a threshold.
What period?
For as long as you earn a turnover of 150 million plus in a year, then you are required to register for VAT. So 2 conditions. 1, you deal in a VATable good or supply. 2, you have a threshold of 150 million plus. That is a turnover of 150 million plus in a year. You may ask, Solomon, when then do I have to register? Do I wait for the end of the year and say, oh, we are now in December.
How?
Okay, I have reached 150 million
What
and
should I
now
have in place?
I go and register for VAT. No. Okay, so we don't wait until the financial year has ended, because we run a financial year, so maybe July to June.
Okay.
So you don't wait from 1st July and wait for 30th June and say, now my turnover is
actual
150
turnover.
million. Let me go and register for VAT. No. You are required to register at the point when you suspect, okay, or realize that you are going to hit the turnover of 150 million. How? Okay, you are a
I
supplier.
was about
Yes, how? You are a supplier. Okay, you've got a contract,
big one.
a big one. Okay, and that contract has the sum stated in it. And
200
this
million.
contract has a period of, let's say, 7 months. So you're supplying something and you're supplying that thing within the next 6 or 7 months or 1 year, and the contract value is over and above 150 million. You don't wait until you're done with the contract. You register today. You apply for registration the day you get the contract. So yes, you've not made any turnover, you've not made any sale, but you are required to register now because you anticipate.
You're prospecting.
Yes, you
Sure.
anticipate, yes, that you're actually going to exceed the threshold of VAT. Secondly, you're in business, okay? You start in July, okay? You have sales of 12 million. In August, you have sales of 20 million. September, you have sales of 25 million. And it's an upward trend. There's nothing out of the blue or drastic that has pushed these sales that maybe that thing will go away.
Organic.
Yes, it is organic. Your business is growing. Okay. At the point in the 3rd month when you realize you've already exceeded 37.5 million, because 150 divided by 12 months is 12.5 million. So in 3 months, it's about 37.5 million. At the point when you realize, oh, I have actually exceeded 37.5 in a 3 months period, you are required to register at that point. So you don't wait until the year
Required
has
being a
ended.
keyword.
Required. You are required. It is compulsory for you to register for VAT at that particular point. So 2 things again, like I've said, Solomon. 1, you're dealing in a VATable good or supply. 2, you have
the thresholds.
met the threshold. So your
150
turnover
for the
is
year,
150 in a year.
7.5.
37.5 in a
3
quarter of 3 months, 12.5 in a month. But usually we don't expect you to say, oh, 12.5 in month 1, I'm going to register. Monitor. So at least in a 3 months period is enough for you to say, now I'm monitoring my trend. I am required to register for VAT compulsorily.
Let's suppose I'm meeting those
Okay.
requirements
Yes.
and njagala VAT.
Yes.
What do I go about this registration business?
Okay, so if you want to register for VAT, you are required to actually log onto the URL website with your TIN and your password, because everyone who is in business is required to have a TIN. So for you to be able to register for VAT, you need to have a TIN. So you log onto the URL website with your TIN and your password, and you apply to register for VAT. Once URA has received the application, they will visit your premises to confirm that you actually have a business, to confirm that that business is actually dealing in a good or service that is required to be VAT registered or is VATable, confirm that you actually meet the threshold, and then they will approve your application and you will be registered for VAT.
Are there exceptions?
Exceptions to?
Registration. let's suppose I'm not meeting the threshold.
Yes.
Let's suppose I'm dealing in vertible items, or maybe I'm not even dealing in vertible items, but I kind of want to benefit from the dynamics of VAT
Yes.
registration, because
Yes.
it's a beautiful game.
Yes.
How do I do this?
Okay, so the law allows this to happen. The law allows for you to register voluntarily.
Yes.
So last time I was saying compulsorily. Now you want
By
to register
requirement.
voluntarily. You don't meet the threshold. You don't have a turnover of 150 million plus in a year, but you want to register for VAT. What would make you want to register for VAT? Most times, when bids come out for big entities, they require persons who are submitting bids for those particular jobs to have VAT registration.
True.
So I met a lot of this when I was working in the URA service center. People come to you and they say, I want to register for VAT. And you ask them, do you meet the threshold? Do you have a turnover of more than 150 million in a year? And they say, no. You tell them, so why do you want to register? You see, I'm bidding for this thing, and they require VAT registration. So yes, if you want to voluntarily register for VAT, the law allows you, but you must meet the obligations of a VAT registered person. What are these obligations?
Hey,
One, you must have a fixed place of business. Okay, you
Not
have a fixed
briefcase
place of
businesses.
no briefcase companies. So you must have a fixed place of business where you're actually carrying out your trade or providing your service. We should be able to locate you. Briefcase, we should be able to see this is Solomon and Company. They trade in these goods. They are located on this street, on this plot. We are able to actually find you.
not this business. No.
No. So you must have a fixed place of business. Secondly, you must be able to keep proper financial records. Okay, proper financial records will mean you have your invoices written out properly, you have your records of how much you made in sales, how many sales you made each particular day, and the expenses that you incurred. So you must be able to keep proper financial records. Thirdly, and very, very important, you must be able to issue proper tax invoices. These days we call it the e-freeze invoice because URA is e-freeze, e-receipt, yes. E-invoice. So you must be able to issue proper tax invoice, maybe proper e-freeze invoices. Okay. Then lastly, you must be able to file proper returns and pay your tax on time, because the people who are carrying out business, they don't meet the threshold. They want to register for VAT, but they cannot meet these obligations because either they're not able to file proper returns, they don't know how to do it, they don't have anyone to help them do it. They become a risk because the people that are going to collect the VAT from you, Solomon, and go and eat it instead of giving it to URA. So we must make yes, and it happens a lot. It happens a lot. People register for VAT, collect the VAT from you, the consumers, because they have an obligation to do that. And instead of paying it over to URA, they use it for their own personal and individual purposes. So you, the person who has bought from them, you're incurring the cost, you have paid it to them, but they've not paid it over to URA. So we must make sure that at least you meet those 4 obligations of those 4 important requirements before you register for VAT. So then you come, you tell us, I want to register voluntarily, go back a bid. We say, okay, do you meet our obligations or requirements? If you do,
Place of abode,
a place of business,
books.
financial records and books of accounts, issue e-freeze invoices, and you're able to file proper and reliable returns. Okay, so
Only
we
then
can
you have a conversation.
only then can you come and say, I want to voluntarily register for VAT. So just because you have a bid is not enough. Okay, because what happens is that most people then register for VAT, they don't get the job, they dump everything and move on. So then we have a VAT registered person or a register. We're looking for this person. We're waiting for them to give us VAT, and they're not. Meanwhile, they're still doing business, but they're not charging VAT because they do not need it, or they think they do, and besides, they don't hit the threshold. So they don't even. It's not mandatory. Yes. So they dump it there, and then they leave you with a register that you cannot keep up with. Government is telling you you're not collecting enough VAT. You have these many taxpayers who are registered. Why aren't you collecting? But these taxpayers are not paying VAT because he needed it for a bid. He didn't get the bid. He moved on. He's not filing returns. He's not doing anything of the obligations that are required.
You know, you're speaking like that. You're making it seem like the day I get registered for VAT
Yes.
is the day that I assume some extra responsibilities
Yes, Solomon.
that URA is expecting of me. What are these?
So the day you register for VAT is the day that you assume obligations. So these are the obligations that are required of someone that is registered for VAT.
Okay.
1, charge VAT. That is your first and primary obligation, to charge VAT, because you're dealing in a vatable good or service.
So you're here to collect that VAT
Yes,
on behalf
of government.
That's
So
the
charge
first
the VAT.
contractual obligation.
It is the first obligation. Because you know what happens? These people go, and then when they get someone coming to the shop, they say, "Where invoice you wasikuwa?" And then the person says, "Atompa." And then they charge you a little bit less, okay? Because you don't require an invoice, URA won't catch them, okay? Then they give you the good, they sell, they don't declare to URA. Or sometimes they'll actually ask you for invoice and you say, "I don't need it." They'll charge you the VAT, but they'll not declare it to URA, okay? So your first obligation is to charge VAT.
What you're saying in there is that these people who say Sagara invoice are the first people who put the tax money in a difficult situation.
In a difficult situation, okay? So either they're dealing in a vatable good and they're not actually charging VAT, so meaning government is not going to collect enough, or they are charging VAT and not remitting it to government. And yet their primary obligation as VAT registered people is to register for VAT and collect VAT. So yes, they could be eating
charge
it.
it,
So your first obligation is
collect,
charge VAT.
remit it.
The second obligation is to issue a proper IFRIS invoice. After you have charged the VAT, you've got to issue a proper invoice, a proper tax invoice, which now we call an IFRIS invoice. That is your second obligation.
An e-receipt.
An
or
e-invoice. Your third obligation, keep proper records. Because remember, this thing of I paid, so I deduct from what I paid, give you the balance. We've got to be able to follow it. The only way we can follow it is if we have proper records that show what you paid and what you've charged and the balance that you're giving URA after subtracting what you paid from what you charged. To be able to follow it, we need those proper records. So the third obligation is to keep proper records. Your fourth obligation is to file proper returns. Proper VAT returns, showing how much you have charged and how much you incurred for you to be able to charge the VAT that you have charged the final consumers that have consumed that particular good or service. So you must be able to file a proper tax return. That's a proper VAT return. The fifth obligation is to pay the tax and pay it on time. So we can go through them again. The first obligation, charge the VAT because you're registered for VAT. So you've got to charge VAT on the goods or services you're providing. Second, issue a proper IFRIS invoice, a proper tax invoice. Third, keep proper records. Okay? Fourth, file a proper and reliable return. A correct, proper and reliable VAT return.
When?
Every 15th of the next month after the end of the month.
What about those months where I've not collected any VAT?
Even if you have not collected any VAT, you are supposed to declare. File a return and tell URA this month, I've not collected any VAT. Chaganye, sazifunye. Okay, there was no business, so I didn't collect any VAT. You've got to inform URA. The fifth, pay the VAT that you have collected. And lastly, pay it on time.
What is on time?
On time means, again, you pay by the 15th day of the next month. So the VAT of September, we pay it in October. So by Sunday, was the last day, the 15th day. So all the VAT you collected in September, you must have paid it by 15th October. So by the 15th day of the next month.
Jolly,
Yes.
if I do not do those things that you're
Yes.
talking about,
Yes.
what can happen?
Solomon, if you don't do the things that we've talked about, the law has hefty penalties. Hefty penalties that I wouldn't advise anyone to actually fail on their obligations as a VAT registered person. Okay, so one of the penalties that we have, if you do not register for VAT, because remember your first obligation is to register if you meet the requirements. You're dealing in a vatable good or supply, you meet the threshold, you've got to register. If you do not register for VAT, and URA is able to get information that you actually were supposed to register and you do not, the penalty is double. the VAT that you are supposed to charge.
Double tax.
Yes, double the VAT payable in that particular period. So if we catch you in October and realize, oh, since July, you are actually supposed to have registered for VAT, compute the VAT that you should have charged from July, double that VAT is the penalty for not registering when you are supposed to register.
Okay.
Second penalty that we have is if you fail to file a return. Because I said one of the obligations that you have is to file a proper return. So if you fail to file a return, you're going to pay a penalty. So even if you did not sell anything that month, file a return. Tell us 0, but you've got to file that return. If you do not, the penalty is 200,000 or the interest payable on that amount of VAT for that month, whichever is greater.
200,000 US.
Yes, 200,000 Uganda shillings. 200,000 Uganda shillings. Yes, so that is the penalty for failure to file a return.
Okay.
What about paying the VAT late? Because remember, it's not your money. Okay, you collected it from other people. Yes. Okay, and now you're paying it to government late.
Money.
Yes, you're supposed to pay it by 15th. It is the 25th of the next month. You've not paid. You reach November, you've not paid. You reach December, you've not paid. The penalty for failing to pay VAT on time is 2% per month, compounded. Okay, so if you're supposed to pay 8 million this month, you don't pay it, we charge 2% of the 8 million. Okay, the next month you still don't pay, we charge 2% of the 8 million plus the other 2%. Okay, so that is a penalty for failing to pay VAT on time. Now, this IFRS thing also has its penalties because we require everyone who's registered for VAT to comply. Nyinji, because VAT is one of the major revenue sources for the government. It is one of the major sources of government revenue. The government needs to operate, needs to provide public goods and services. So if you fail to meet your obligations under the tax laws, you're failing government's efforts. So that is why you need to meet these obligations or
for
you
IFRS.
get penalties.
What's the IFRS related?
So there are 3 IFRS penalties.
Not one.
No, there are 3. Okay? So 1, failure. Okay? To obtain an electronic physical device. You are supposed to, but you don't. If we find you without one, you're going to pay 8 million Uganda shillings.
EFD.
Yes. Okay. The second one, you fail to issue an IFRS invoice. Okay? Someone has gone to buy a good or service.
But I'm not issuing.
You're not issuing IFRS invoice. You're issuing the ones from your invoice book because you don't want URA to track you. Because when you issue an IFRS invoice, URA is notified and they know Solomon has made a sale. Tumulinde omwezi nga guweddeko azituweza akoze. Okay, so you have made a sale, you've not used the IFRS invoice because you don't want URA to catch you, you want to collect VAT from other people and eat it. So if you do not issue an IFRS invoice or you tamper with an invoice, you're going to pay 6 million.
Tamper?
Yes. You don't issue an invoice or you tamper with an invoice, the penalty is 6 million Uganda shillings.
Okay, the third?
Okay, the third one is for someone who decides to basically just disconnect themselves from the URA system. They refuse to link themselves to the URA system. They'll get devices that either are not linked or are fake. And we catch you that you have a device that is not linked to the URA system. Yes, you're issuing invoices, but they are not linked, so we can't see you. Or you're using a fake device, then the penalty is imprisonment. Imprisonment or 6 million or both. You pay that 6 million and also go and learn something from the school of understanding. You learn not to cheat government taxes for 3 years. No, because the fraud happening in VAT is too much. Okay?
Tell me about it.
And like I've said, remember, this is people's money. It's not your money. Government has trusted you.
From people
Yes.
and government.
Yes. So government has trusted you to collect this tax. The noble duty to help government provide public goods and services by collecting revenue on behalf of the government. But instead of actually fulfilling this noble duty, collecting the VAT, paying it over to government, you're either eating it not collecting it, or collecting it and using it to build mansions. And Ugandans are suffering because of that. They have potholed roads, they don't have access to medicine in hospitals because you're eating the VAT, you're buying posh cars, you're enjoying a good life. Well, 1,000 other Ugandans that would have benefited from that money are living hopeless lives.
Collected from them.
You've got to pay for it.
You've not remitted.
Yes.
Have we had scenarios where one Uganda
Yes.
is actually culpable on a number of those issues?
Yes, we've had that.
Guy is not fighting.
Yes.
Guy is not remitting.
Yes.
Guy is not a fresh register.
Yes.
Or if he is, he's tampering.
Yes.
What happens in a situation like that? Because these are like, lawyers call it multiple cases.
Offenses.
Multiple offenses.
Yes. So when you fail to meet your obligations, which happens a lot, okay? So like for failing to file a return, we shall just put that penalty on your tax ledger. So at a point in time when you fail to pay this, then we shall use some of our enforcement mechanisms to be able to collect this money from you. If you've failed on so many obligations, we shall lump up that entire amount and still collect it from you, because this is not your money. So we shall use enforcement mechanisms, maybe we shall agency your bank accounts and get that money, or even arrest you for some of those offenses where we can arrest and take you to court. And indeed, if you check various news websites, you'll see instances where URA has taken people to court for VAT fraud.
Especially
Yes.
about VAT fraud.
Yes.
Quite a number of them have actually fallen victim.
Yes, so that is what we call VAT fraud. Basically cheating the system to be able to benefit yourself by cheating government taxes, collecting it from people and not paying it to government. That is part of VAT fraud.
Jolly, one word of advice to someone who is deep in the trenches, trying to, make a killing, to work a business, he wants it to blossom. What would you say to a person like that regarding VAT?
So
Some
I
of
would
them fear it.
advise, business persons out there,
So,
who are dealing in vatable goods and supplies and wish to register, they should come out and register. Charge VAT and pay the VAT to URA. For those that meet the threshold, it is compulsory. So I'd advise them, please visit a URA service center. If you don't know how to register for VAT, they'll be able to guide you through the process and you'll be able to register for VAT. Don't wait for URA to catch you and impose penalties on you. And maybe what I would advise Ugandans out there, you are the ones that are paying the VAT. Ultimately, you are the ones that are meeting the cost. When you go to receive a good or service, especially to the supermarkets out there, ensure that they give you a proper IFRS invoice. You can use one of our methods and scan the invoice to make sure it's a proper tax invoice and make sure that your VAT is actually doing what it's supposed to do. So be vigilant. Make sure that when you go to a supermarket, they give you your invoice. Please insist on getting an invoice and a proper IFRS invoice. It will be your noble duty to this country.
Jody, how do I know that the invoice that has been issued to me is an actual invoice? Invoice.
So the IFRS invoice has peculiar features, that can help you understand that this is an IFRS invoice and not a fake. One, it has an FDN, a physical document number that is written on it. Of course, it has the normal details, that is the name of the person that is giving you the service or the good from whom you're buying, the TIN of that person, and it will have a description of the good or service that they've given you, the amount you've paid, and the VAT that they've charged you. Some of them will have the URA logo if they are directly off the URA website. Some of them is system-to-system integration, so they may not have the logo, but at least they will have the physical document number. So you can use an app to scan that invoice and be able to confirm that that invoice is an IFRS invoice, or use that FDN, the physical document number, put it on the URA website and authenticate that that is a valid IFRS invoice. If it is not valid, don't worry, bring it to URA. Go to any URA center near you, drop that invoice there, tell them I got this invoice from a supermarket, it is not a valid invoice, we shall deal with that particular person that is collecting your VAT and not paying it to URA.
You say the word, we shall deal with that person with a lot
URA
of grace.
will deal with that person. Yes.
It's been an honor having you on the Drift podcast.
Thank you.
Having this conversation about VAT. We look forward to many more
Conversations.
opportunities of having conversations with you as you're busy doing the Lord's work. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you, Solomon. I appreciate coming here talking about tax, and I hope Ugandans out there can benefit from such podcasts to know more about taxes so that we are able to grow an engaged citizenry, okay? People that know their rights and obligations under the tax laws. I hope more people can actually view this, and maybe the younger generation will be more tax alert than the generation that's gone by.
100%. He who knows, knows, and he who does.
And ignorance is not a defense in the law.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you so much, and adios.
Okay, have a good one.
Have a good one.
Uganda is progressing very fast. Negotiating sharp bends at breakneck speed. On the Drift podcast, we put that growth in perspective.